Let me tell you something most people won't say out loud. Silence, when used the right way, is powerful. Not the kind of silence that comes from fear or insecurity, but the kind that comes from self-respect, confidence, and knowing your worth. See, when you stop over-explaining, over-texting, and over-giving, something interesting happens. A man starts leaning in, starts wondering, he starts missing you, and that's where real attraction begins. Silence has a way of triggering curiosity in a man's mind that words never can. When you don't explain everything, when you don't rush to respond, when you don't constantly keep the conversation alive, his imagination starts working overtime. He begins to wonder what you're thinking, what you're doing, and where he stands with you. That curiosity slowly turns into emotional investment, because now he's mentally involved, not just casually present. Silence creates space, and in that space, feelings grow. When you talk too much, you remove the need for him to think. Everything is clear, predictable, and easy, but when you allow moments of quiet, you invite him to lean in. He starts replaying your last conversation, analyzing your tone, remembering your expressions. Your silence becomes louder than words because it leaves something unfinished in his mind. Men are naturally drawn to what they feel they haven't fully figured out, and silence keeps a part of you just out of reach. This doesn't mean ignoring him or playing childish games. It means being comfortable with pauses and not filling them with reassurance. When you don't immediately chase answers or validation, he feels a subtle shift in power. He realizes that your attention is valuable and not automatically available. That realization makes him emotionally step forward. He begins to check in more, ask deeper questions, and show more consistency because he wants to secure his place in your world. Silence also allows him to associate peace with your presence. Instead of constant emotional noise, arguments, or explanations, he experiences calm. That calm becomes addictive because it feels safe and grounding. He starts to see you as someone who doesn't drain his energy but centers it. Emotional investment grows when a man feels understood without being overwhelmed, and silence helps create that balance. Over time, your quiet confidence becomes something he respects and desires. He senses that you are not desperate for attention or approval, and that makes your presence more valuable. Your silence invites him to do the work emotionally, to invest mentally, and to choose you consciously rather than passively being entertained. Silence is one of the clearest signs of confidence because it shows you are comfortable with yourself. When you don't feel the need to constantly explain your actions, justify your feelings, or prove your value, it sends a powerful message that you already know who you are. A woman with self-worth doesn't rush to speak just to be understood. She trusts that the right person will feel her presence without excessive words. That quiet assurance is rare, and rarity always attracts attention. When you are secure, you don't panic in moments of distance or uncertainty. You don't flood him with messages asking what went wrong or what he's thinking. Instead, you remain grounded. That calm silence signals emotional maturity. It tells him you are not dependent on his validation to feel whole. Men instinctively respect this because it reflects inner strength, not emotional neediness. The less you chase reassurance, the more he begins to offer it on his own. High self-worth also means knowing when not to engage. Silence allows you to observe instead of react. Rather than arguing, defending yourself, or trying to control outcomes, you step back and let situations reveal the truth. This kind of restraint shows wisdom. It shows you don't need to win every conversation to feel powerful. Your energy becomes selective, and selectiveness increases value. When a man notices that you don't give everyone access to your emotions, he feels honored when you open up to him. Silence also protects your standards. When you don't overtalk, you don't overpromise. You let your actions and consistency speak for you. That steadiness makes you predictable in the best way and unshakable in moments of pressure. He begins to understand that you won't be easily swayed by sweet words or empty gestures. That realization pushes him to rise to your level instead of pulling you down to his uncertainty. Confidence isn't loud, and self-worth doesn't beg to be seen. It shows up in how you carry yourself, how you respond, and how you choose quiet over chaos. When your silence comes from strength, it becomes a mirror that reflects your value back to him, making him feel it even when no words are spoken. Silence has a way of pushing a man inward, forcing him to confront thoughts he normally avoids. When everything is explained for him, when emotions are laid out neatly, he doesn't have to reflect. But whoa, can you choose silence? Instead of chasing answers, his mind starts filling in the gaps. He begins asking himself questions he never had to ask before. Where do I stand with her? Why isn't she reacting the way I expected? What happens if I lose her attention? That internal dialogue is where attachment quietly begins. When you stop demanding clarity through words, you shift responsibility back onto him. Silence removes the comfort of emotional hand-holding. Instead of you guiding the conversation, he has to step up and define his intentions. Men often delay decisions when they feel no pressure to choose, but silence creates a different kind of pressure. It's not loud or aggressive, but it's undeniable. He feels the absence of reassurance and realizes that uncertainty could cost him something valuable. This kind of silence isn't cold, it's intentional. You're not punishing him, you're simply refusing to do emotional labor on his behalf. When he senses that you're no longer chasing explanations, he's left alone with his thoughts. That's when clarity starts forming. He either recognizes how much you matter and moves towards you with purpose, or he becomes uncomfortable with his own indecision. Either way, silence brings truth to the surface faster than any conversation ever could. Silence also disrupts patterns. If he's used to you always reaching out, always checking in, always trying to fix things, your quiet creates a pause in the cycle. That pause makes him notice the imbalance. He starts remembering the effort you put in, the energy you brought, the presence he may have taken for granted. Reflection deepens when routine is broken, and silence is one of the most effective ways to break emotional autopilot. As he reflects, emotional investment grows. Thinking leads to feeling, and feeling leads to action. When a man chooses clarity on his own, it becomes more meaningful because it's not forced. Silence gives him the space to arrive at that decision independently, making his commitment stronger, more intentional, and rooted in awareness rather than pressure. Silence is a form of self-protection, especially in moments charged with emotion. When situations turn tense, words spoken in anger often do more damage than silence ever could. Choosing not to react immediately shows emotional discipline. It shows that you value your dignity more than winning an argument or proving a point. A woman who can pause instead of explode communicates strength without raising her voice, and that kind of control leaves a lasting impression. During emotional moments, silence prevents regret. You don't give away personal vulnerabilities that could later be used against you. You don't say things you don't truly mean just to release tension. By staying quiet, you maintain ownership of your emotions instead of letting emotions own you. This restraint signals maturity. It tells him that you are thoughtful, not reactive, and that you don't allow temporary feelings to dictate your behavior. Silence also changes the dynamic of conflict. When one person stays calm and composed while the other is emotional, the balance of power shifts. He becomes more aware of his own behavior. Instead of focusing on defending himself, he starts reflecting on why you're not engaging the way he expected. Your silence acts as a mirror, forcing him to see the situation more clearly. Emotional power comes from control, not confrontation. Protecting your dignity through silence also means knowing when a conversation isn't productive. Not every issue needs to be discussed in the heat of the moment. Silence creates space for emotions to settle, for clarity to replace confusion. When you choose to speak later, your words carry more weight because they're not fueled by impulse. He listens more closely because he knows you don't speak carelessly. Over time, this pattern builds respect. He learns that emotional chaos doesn't pull you off center. You don't beg, plead, or argue for validation. You remain grounded even when situations are uncomfortable. That stability makes you emotionally powerful because it shows you can handle pressure without losing yourself. Silence, used this way, becomes a boundary that protects your peace and reinforces your value without saying a single word. Silence changes how your presence is perceived because it removes the idea that access to you is automatic. When you are always available, always responding, always adjusting your schedule around him, your presence becomes familiar in a way that loses value. But when you step back and allow silence to exist, your time and attention start to feel earned. He becomes aware that being part of your world is a privilege, not a guarantee, and that awareness shifts how deeply he values you. When a man senses that he has to show up consistently to keep your attention, he starts investing more effort. Silence teaches him that your energy is not free. You're not withholding affection out of manipulation, you're simply not giving it away without intention. That distinction matters. It creates a healthy dynamic where he understands that connection with you comes through respect, effort, and emotional presence. Your silence also creates contrast. When you're not constantly around, he notices your absence more clearly. He feels the difference between having you and not having you. That gap builds desire because humans value what they have to work for. When he earns moments with you, conversations feel more meaningful, time together feels richer, and your presence feels special instead of routine. Earning your presence also encourages growth. He becomes more thoughtful about how he treats you because he knows careless behavior has consequences. Silence paired with consistency teaches him that you don't chase people who aren't aligned with you. You don't argue for respect. You move in a way that requires it, that pushes him to rise emotionally